What was the promise of automation in security?
Somehow the promise of automation turned on being the fact that you could have less people,
Yeah.
or people would expect things to happen by themselves like that.
I think it was like you're going to have more free time and you're just going to free up your resources to be used in other strategic areas. I don't think we've seen that yet. I don't think we've seen that level of automation so that we can use our resources in a more strategic way.
Hey, Stuart Seymour has a question here. What is the best automation, really basic, so it catches momentum for incident response?
My advice would be not to start with trying to automate things end to end. People always try to look at automation with an end-to-end goal. I have to take a certain type of an event completely off my table. And guess what? That is not easy because, many constraints and many possible things. What if you introduce automation at first, not to take the event off your table, but to shave off, say, 80% of the time it takes you to handle that particular event, only leaving 20. That is a much more realistic goal, much easier. Bring your human into the loop, albeit shorten the time they need to spend.
The areas that I like to focus on automation is what are the tasks that we are constantly doing over and over again that we can do a simple first step automation. I see the justification of adding my resources to actually create that automation. That's time and money that you're spending there, right? You're taking them away from strategic areas to put them towards this. I could justify that if we're going to be closing that loop of that mundane task that constantly happens.
One of the bizarre circumstances that has happened with automation is, while it was sold to us as it's going to reduce your staff, many organizations that want to automate have had to increase staff to be able to do automation. What have you seen happening?
It happens when an organization that is on the adopting end of the automation has a fundamentally human operational approach, and then they would like to adopt automation because they have heard all the wonderful things we mentioned already. But for them, automation is not something that we do. It's something that they do. And then the increase in the required headcount is, okay, now we need the automators. The scenario where adopting automation doesn't bring you to that bizarre or very undesired outcome is to adopt an engineering state of mind. Think about any security process as event. And then, yes, there are steps that are taking place as a response to the event. Think of them as an information flow, right? What piece of information from the event do you take to what other system? What remediative steps do you take as a response? That's where you don't fall into the pitfall of bringing in more and more and more people, but you actually start seeing the improvement in efficiency.
Joshua Bregler asks this question: how do you measure the ROI for automation? Also, what KPIs do you keep?
We measure how many engineering hours we've spent on repetitive tasks and how it's been reduced with these type of automations. We track that in Jira, that we report on that, and based on the engineering hours of what we spent on this, that's how we prioritize what we're going to automate next. When we do that, it also gets excitement to the engineers. When they see that list of things that have been repetitive, like, that's the problem I want to tackle, it gets them to ideate and think differently on how they want to use automation.
I think that the one most under-automated area is actually the one that should be automated the most, and that's remediation. I think that many people that today start their journey into automation, they are, I don't know, maybe because of the lack of confidence, maybe because of, again, sort of like a leap of faith that it requires, are very much focusing on just improving the monitoring and orchestrating the tickets.
Is there such a thing as automation drift, meaning I automated today and, it's not working the way it is 6 months from now, or maybe 2 months from now?
Yeah, it happens all the time. I talk about Terraform drift. It's a problem that we're trying to fix right now, but we go fix something, no matter what, in an hour, if that Terraform run goes again, it brings that issue right back into the environment. So you have to see how you're taking it back to that Terraform state to fix it there. So drift is, it happens. Like, you got to monitor and make sure you're staying on top of that.
Yeah, drift is a normal just nature of things. One of the ideas that we brought into the security automation that for some weird reason we're lacking there is, we don't have to reinvent the wheel. And guess what? Software engineering industry throughout the past 20 years have developed techniques, approaches, architectures to solve these very problems. There are techniques. Same approach applies, right? Our automation service sort of like rides on the wave of shift left and agile driven development with progressive deployments every time a new change is being pushed out to production.
You're going to have to constantly look at how that automation is going to adjust to how the business, how the development organization, how the problems that the developers are solving at the ground level are changing, because how that is changing and how they like to ideate and change, automations need to keep suit with that, or follow suit with that.
I think the main thing to remember is that the subject of how to do automation is not a solved one, right? It's at the core of what many security organizations are battling today. We at Torq believe in the service and the collaboration, right? The engagement there is indeed measured by the quality of living, right, that the organization starts feeling an improvement in when starting to adopt the automation.